Good morning, Bitcoiners. Daniel from the Bitcoin Citadel. It is day 40, Citadel summer. And today, I'm going to talk about numbers. Bitcoin is all about numbers. It's about math. Bitcoin is based on cryptography, and the encryption scheme is SHA-256. I'm not going to do a dissertation on cryptography or public key, private key cryptography. It's a very interesting topic. Maybe I will talk about it sometime in Citadel Summer. But today I'm going to talk about numbers. This is the 40th day of the Citadel Summer. It is August 1st, 8/1/2025. Or if you're in Europe, maybe it's 1/8/2025. Bitcoin, like I said, is based on numbers. Some of the numbers that are important to Bitcoin, any large prime numbers, because encryption, modern encryption that's done by computers and computer systems is all based on very large prime numbers. Prime numbers, as most of you probably know, are very special numbers. They're numbers that are not divisible by any other number except themselves and the number one. One is a very special number too, because one's not divisible by anything, but one is not a prime number. There's only one even number that's a prime number, and that is the number 2, right? That's the smallest prime number. And 40, which is the number of today's show, right, is 2 times 5, 10, with a whole bunch of other 2s. So it's a bunch of 2s, really, 2 times 2 times 2, which is the cube of 2 times 5. So today's the 40th show, and guess what? Today's the first day of August, which is the 8th month, right? Interesting. Prime numbers, super important for cryptography. Other numbers that are important to Bitcoin, 21, super important. There's 21 million coins in Bitcoin, and they're being released every about 10 minutes. So the number 10, kind of important too, right? We have a halvening cycle in Bitcoin that is also based around the number 21 and that number 10, right? The reason why people get into Bitcoin is because of number go up, right? So Bitcoin, a lot of numbers. People care a lot about numbers in Bitcoin. I think a lot of you probably number go ups. Come on, let's face it. Number go ups probably one of the bigger deals for you in Bitcoin. With keys in Bitcoin, right? We have seed phrases that a lot of you are familiar with. I hope all of you are familiar with, because everybody should be taking custody of their own Bitcoin. You should have your Bitcoin in self-custody. And in self-custody, you sovereign Bitcoiners who actually have your own Bitcoin, and it's not sitting on some exchange or in an ETF or tied up in strategy stock, right? You have your own Bitcoin in self-custody. You're sovereign Bitcoiners. You are the special forces of World War III, right? That number 12 is very important. Maybe the number 24 too, because that's the number of words in a seed phrase. And that's what you use to back up your private key. It's part of that public key, private key pair that makes the world go round in Bitcoin. So 12, another important number in Bitcoin. 24 is just 12 times 2, right? And 12 is simply a whole bunch of 2s and a whole bunch of 3s, really just 1 3, multiplied together, right? So numbers, really important to Bitcoin. It's not a simulation Sunday, but some of you guys have told me that's your favorite day of the week. Some of you guys have also told me it's very silly and you just ignore it. I like it because I think it's fun. And for Simulation Sunday, some of the important numbers, one of the most important numbers is 138. I haven't even talked about 138 much on Simulation Sunday yet, but that's one of the numbers that's important for the version of simulation theory that I like, the one put forward by Jason Breshears, because that is the Phoenix number, right? And if we look at that Phoenix number of 138, it's kind of neat because there's a number, the fine structure constant, which is 137 with some other numbers added on. It's about 137, right? Which is just one off of 138. So the Phoenix number and the fine structure constant number are pretty darn close, right? So that is one of the numbers of the simulation. There's also some other important numbers of this realm that we're in, which are those constants, like the fine structure constant. There's a whole bunch of numbers tied to that. One of the cool numbers is this irrational transcendental number that everybody knows about. People talk about it all the time. It's got its own day of the year now, pi, right? And on March 17th, people talk about Pi Day, right? Because it's so cool, it's so awesome. So pi is another one of those numbers that's super important. There's another number that is cool, 2178. And if you're into simulation theory and you're into Jason Breshears' flavor of it, that number is a very special number. I'm going to let you do a little research on that one if you want. 2178, another important number, right? If you believe that the world is a simulation, or maybe even if you don't, because if you don't, physics is all about numbers, all these constants in physics that are the really make the world, make the universe, right? The foundation, the infrastructure of the universe is numbers, right? So, and then, math and physics are intertwined, tightly intertwined. The whole revolution of, it was called natural sciences back in the day, right? That was led by smart people like Isaac Newton. They took the observation of the world that people who started to be called natural philosophers, is really what they were called back then, natural philosophers, and married it to numbers, mathematics, and the insights that they came up with really are that formed the system of the world that we have now, right? Isaac Newton was an interesting cat, though. He really was into numbers. He was an alchemist as much as he was a scientist. He was as concerned with chronology and with, mystical stuff, the stuff of alchemy. Alchemy is presented to the public as a bunch of dudes who, were trying to turn base matter, or usually they say lead, into gold, right? But alchemy has a lot of different, deeper, arcane meanings as well. So Isaac Newton, super smart dude, numbers guy, very close observer of the world, of reality, right? Who turned out to be more interested in, the esoteric nature of the universe than he was in natural philosophy. Or to him, natural philosophy included both the mathematical and physics side of it and that arcane, magical, mystical side of it. And he was equally, if not more, interested in that side as he was in the what now we call physics, right? Really interesting. The other thing, I mentioned it the other day on the show, that he was super interested in is gold, right? In pure metal. And one of the, I don't know if you guys have ever read Neil Stephenson. I'm a huge fan because I talk about him all the time. It's seemingly, right? But the whole Baroque cycle, one of the elements of that story is gold, and this special gold, this heavy gold, this gold that's infused with a magical property. And that's what Isaac Newton becomes obsessed with, right? as part of this alchemical exploration that he was on, because it's infused with this property that makes it a little bit heavier. And that property is what he comes to believe is the secret of immortality, right? It's a special gold. So he becomes the master of the mint in England in order to try to find examples of this gold. And the English economy, the British Empire, grows because their money becomes the best money in the world, right? The hardest money of the time, because Isaac Newton is there to make sure that the golden guineas are perfectly pure and they're the best money they can make. And he's the smartest dude in the freaking world, right? He's a numbers guy. Numbers, super important. And prime numbers, I think, are really important. If you talk about numbers, then prime numbers are a whole category. And like I said before, prime numbers are the secret sauce of all cryptography. All cryptography is really based around you multiply two prime numbers together, like maybe 37 and 73, and you come up with the number 2701. And it's kind of hard to say what are the factors of 2701. 2701 is not a large number, right? Because you go back through, and eventually you're like, oh, it's 37 and 73, right? Imagine those numbers are much larger than 27 and 73. Huge numbers. Then it becomes nearly impossible to factor those prime numbers. And that's what the SHA-256 algorithm is based upon, is prime numbers, large prime numbers. But like I said, those aren't the only numbers that are important. And one of these days, on a Citadel Sunday, we'll talk more about numbers. We'll talk more about it, because numbers, the reality can be boiled down to numbers. Jason says that we live in a mathematical construct, right? And he has a strong argument for that. I just like it for the entertainment value, personally. But I do find it very entertaining. And I do find it both entertaining and profound, which is also how I find Bitcoin. Now, if you found that an entertaining rant on a Friday, I hope you did, consider giving me a call, right? Or just booking some time in my calendar. Don't do it like I had a guy the other day who booked some time in my calendar like 11 o'clock at night, my time, for 7 o'clock in the morning the next morning. And that's cool because I do take early bookings, but don't do it the night before, right? Give me a little time to, see that you booked me in my calendar. That's cool, Link is below. Like, subscribe, comment if you made it this far. I was a little late this morning. I didn't hear the redbird sing this morning. It's kind of a cold morning. Maybe they were still chilled out, It wasn't even 50 degrees when I got up this morning. So a cold August 1st morning for day 40 of Citadel Summer. The Citadel Summer is coming to an end, my friends. We only got about a month more, right? So you'll get a few more videos. You'll get them throughout the month of August. But Citadel Summer is coming to an end. I don't know if I'm going to go through Labor Day weekend or not. I'm going to try to, but I might be on the road. I'll be on the road a little bit in September, but my only trip for the rest of the summer might be Labor Day weekend here in the U.S., which is last weekend of August, the first, when August turns into September. So when the 8 turns into the 9, that's when I'll be on the road. Anyway, like I said, like, share, subscribe, drop me a comment. If you have anything to say about numbers, or you like what you hear, you can book me in my calendar. You can go to the Bitcoin Citadel website and look at the stuff that the education offerings that we have. I've been talking to a lot of people about cold storage lately, about sovereign Bitcoining, holding your own keys, holding the reins of your own destiny. Remember, we are in the middle of World War III. We are probably some of the only people in the world who realize that right now. We know that we're at the dawning of a golden age, or just before the dawning of a golden age. I'm always out here around sunrise and dawn. There's a saying, it's darkest before the dawn, and I think we may be kind of entering that time. So get your go bag ready, get your act together, book some time with me if you want me to chat about that with you. Look at what we offer in Citadel as far as self-custody is concerned. We don't care about KYC. We're not a bank. We don't care about that, right? So that's one of the things we got going for us. If that's something that's important to you, and it probably should be, being a private person about your private stuff is something that it's work to do it. And, we can probably help you with that too, because we don't really care about your private stuff. That's your stuff. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Peace.